Hello Whisky fans, thanks for joining me, December the 17th. Let's see what we've got today. Not many drams left now. Always becomes a problem now that the bits, there's not much holding the integrity of the front of the calendar together. And there's always the chance that you're going to just rip the whole thing apart. I really don't want the remaining drams to go everywhere. And then I'm going to have to get someone to put them back in order for me. Label away, break the seal. Fresh glass. Let's get some in there. Let's get tasting. Surely they've saved some of the best for last, haven't they? Makes sense? So, colour of this one, definitely absolute polar opposites to the Arran that we had yesterday. Absolutely loved that Arran from yesterday. Definitely one of the forerunners and one of the cheapest whiskies in the Advent calendar. At least it was when it was still for sale at £50 from Arran. Loved that really bitter apple peel note. Arran's just such a brilliant distillery. Really lucky to have Arran. But this one, very dark. So that's either a reasonably old whiskey that's been in sherry casks, or it's got a hell of a lot of colouring in there. I do think that from the colour of that, it does have a bit of a copper tint to it. I am wondering if this is perhaps not a craft presentation that looks a little bit artificial. But hopefully that's not the case. Also concerned that there might be maybe some red wine in there, which works sometimes, but probably more often than not it doesn't. A little bit of a shy one. Possibly because the ABV is a little bit high. It doesn't smell overly strong, but it smells particularly closed and subtle and shy. Not hugely forthcoming with the aromas. What I'm getting on the nose at the moment is quite a bit of chocolatiness. Sort of chocolate coated grains. No way I can guess at the age at this point, but I would say this smells like a whiskey that's had a cask finish applied to it. Possibly something like a port finish, perhaps. Port or possibly red wine. Definitely chocolatey, get some underlying maltiness. But it just falls flat, that little bit. It's a little bit flat in general on the nose. And that's something that I often associate with a whiskey that's spent its full term of maturation in the cask and then it's been dumped into another cask. And because there's that mismatch between the long maturation and the short finishing period, it covers up a lot of the flavour that probably was there. It smells like it's got some substance behind it, but it smells like it's been covered up by something red. Maybe a port, maybe a red wine. I think some milk chocolate nuttiness, winey, fruity, but sort of a subdued Christmas cake fruitiness, not a fresh fruitiness. Let's see how it tastes. ABV, I think I'd probably go around 43, 44 maybe. Not hugely high. But again, on the palate, a little bit flat. It's not quite doing it for me. I think this has definitely had It reminds me a little bit of the Glenmorangie Quinta Reuben, the port finished Glenmorangie, and not in good ways. Getting a little bit of a leatheriness on the nose. So, going to say this might be probably a Highland whiskey, although regions don't mean that much. So on the nose, possibly some port influence or a heavy-handed sherry finish. Slight nuttiness, some toasted chocolatey grains. Actually reminds me a bit of sort of the grains that you use for a darker style of beer, so like caramel malt, those really heavily toasted dark grains. Leathery, nutty, slightly fudgy. As for an age on this one, again, as per yesterday's Arran malt, from the research I could do, that looked like it was a 12-year-old single malt, and I think that this one is probably 12 to 14 years as well. I think the ABV is a touch below 46. I think I said 44, maybe 45 at the absolute tops. But not my thing. I'm sure some people will love this, but finished whiskies and whiskies where the cask sits on top of them, it really chokes the spirit underneath. And that's what I think has happened with this one. So what distilleries are there that use a lot of heavy, winey cask treatments that doesn't work that well? Hopefully this isn't going to be something that people absolutely love, because I've not been particularly positive about it so far. Just trying to think what distilleries there are out there that this could be. It's a little bit along the lines of Glendronach, but I don't think this is Glendronach, because Glendronach is better than this. It might be some sort of special edition, no age statement, very expensive Macallan, possibly. It's that style of cask heavy, sort of slightly overhyped premium whiskey. I think as it sits in the glass and I'm getting a little bit of heat into it, it's opening up a little bit. I'm getting a little bit of flavour coming through from the distillate, from the spirit, but it's really dominated by that cask treatment, and I don't particularly like that. Just getting a little bit of bright, sort of slightly lemony malt coming through, but you're really having to dig for it. It just comes across to me as a whiskey that they've tried to force to be premium by the level of cask finishing. If anything, I'm going to say probably no more than 12 years old on this one. I think it's the closest that I can guess, and I don't think I'm going to be close. It's something like a 12-year-old, probably no age statement, heavily cask finished Macallan or something like that. So one more sip and then we'll see what we've got. Definitely some sort of cask finish or some sort of messing around has gone on in this one. Either a cask finish or something where you've got like 5 different winey casks all vatted together. But I'm not convinced. I don't like it. It's not awful, but it's not my idea of premium. It's not my idea of a good whiskey. Let's see what it is. So I'm going to be pretty embarrassed here if it's something that I like. But Dalmore. So Dalmore Cigar Malt, 44%. So I was bang on the ABV. I don't think I said Dalmore, but I did say Macallan. And in terms of overhyped, overpriced, heavily cask finished, matured whiskies, that's not too far off. So I think Dalmore Cigar Malt is actually one that was in last year's the standard whiskey advent calendar as well. So it'd be interesting to see what I picked up on this one compared to last year. I can't really remember, to be honest, but one thing that I do remember that I still haven't figured out is this meant to be a whiskey which is like cigars or a whiskey for drinking alongside a cigar? Still haven't figured that one out. It's good that Dalmore have gone up to 44%, and to be fair, I could tell that it wasn't quite a craft presentation, but it's not suffered hugely from not being that full 46%. The intensity is there, but the complexity's not, and I think that's because of the cask treatment that this has had. It's absolutely suffocated the actual base spirit, of which there's almost no sign of any of the flavours from the base spirit left. In hindsight, though, you can definitely tell that this is a Dalmore. It's got lots of heavy sherried, leathery, I think I said leathery in my blind tasting notes. It's got those flavours. Quite a sour leatheriness and sour grape notes. Toasted grains, the sort of things you expect from Dalmore, and probably a lot of people will love this one. But I think at the price this stuff sells for, hugely overpriced. Definitely not going to be one that hassles the whiskies in the top spots on the leaderboard. But decent dram, something different. And it's something that I wouldn't buy with my own money by choice. So it's a welcome change. But let's hope for something better tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.